You're listening to the podcast of Iris Josephina. If you're passionate about exploring the menstrual cycle, cyclical living, body wisdom, personal growth, spirituality, and running a business in alignment with your natural cycles, you're in the right place. I'm Iris. I'm an entrepreneur, functional hormone specialist, trainer, and coach, and I am on a mission to share insights, fun facts, and inspiration I discover along the way as I run my business and walk my own path on Earth. Here, you'll hear my personal stories, guest interviews, and vulnerable shares from clients and students. Most people know me from Instagram, where you can find me under @CycleSeeds, or they have been a coaching client or student in one of my courses. I'm so grateful you're here. Let's dive into today's episode. Hey Janne, welcome to the show. I'm so happy to have you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a very deep conversation today, and I'm very happy to have you here. And I always start with listening to people's story. So can you share a little bit more about yourself and about your work? And then we're going to dive into our conversation.
Yeah, I'd love to. I also love that you said a deep conversation, because yesterday evening I was at yoga and the yoga teacher, as I was leaving, was like, "You have a bikini line?" I was like, "No." I was like, "I'm a poet." And she was like, "Oh, you're deep." I was like, "I am deep." I was like, "You're right." She's like, "Poetry's deep." I was like, "Yeah." So I like that you led with that, because that made me laugh last night. And yeah, and I'd love to. I mean, I'm a storyteller. I do a lot of things. I'm a poet and author, but I love to teach through story, even as a coach. So yeah, I'd love to share some of my story of how I arrived here. And should I talk about what I do, or you want me to just go right to the origin story? Just go
Dive right in the way
right
that
in.
you want to share.
So 12 years ago, I was started to just have information that came in the form of a feeling, because I think a lot of the times information that it's time to evolve or change or make different choices or quit a job, leave a relationship, change a foundational part of our life, or sometimes create an entirely new life and start over, usually comes in the form of a feeling. And I started to feel, actually, Iris, it was wanting to sleep all day. There was this, it's interesting how our vices and way we try and numb or avoid, like some people are like, "I'll cover that in wine," or some people are like, "I'll watch Netflix or eat cheese," or there's ways we can, there's unhealthy. I mean, now we're in the time of biohacking, so I think we can help regulate in different ways. But I feel that for me, 12 years ago, I was in Edmonton and I was bartending and serving, and I just felt like I had completely outgrown every part of my life. And I'm sharing the feeling because the feeling was the very first information for me that, like, oh, dang, I'm going to need to make some changes here. I'm going to need to maybe completely start over. And this is really hard, because it's almost as if we get in this on the train tracks of our life and trying to see that there are different ways and different options for us. Sometimes I say different exits on the highway. We kind of black them out to a degree because we feel committed into these parts of our lives, but the information that we might need to change is a feeling. And so for me, it was apathetic, sadness, exhaustion. I felt a little depressed, and I'm a big believer in, and I love Louise Hay's work. And, she talks about how the emotional cause behind depression is often feeling trapped. And we start to sometimes feel trapped in our lives, which sounds wild, but we're just like, I get up and I do the thing, and then I go here, and like, this is it. And I had a moment where I just went, I can't, this isn't it for me anymore, not this. And it was 3:45 p.m. and I was sitting in this show suite in Edmonton selling condos, and I'd bartended the night before. And I remember just looking down at this cup of like curdled coffee from Starbucks, and just, this is such a visceral moment for me. I've told this story many times, but I think we all have these moments where we really finally get the information. It just hits us in the face and we're like, whoa, yeah, this is it. And I was looking at this curdled coffee from Starbucks with like 2 creams and sugar. And I just felt sick. I just felt like Elizabeth Gilbert talks about how we can eat the shit sandwich of our life for so long. And then there's a moment where we're like, I can't do it anymore. I can no longer eat this shit sandwich of my life. And I just picked up the phone and I called my mom at the time and just said, I gotta just make a change, one choice. And the choice for me that I felt the clearest on, which some people think can be shallow, is I was really done living in Edmonton, Alberta. It's an industrial town in Canada. It's has minus 30 degrees Celsius winters.
Oh,
I
wow.
have always loved the warmth. I'm half Greek, and I think that our city is this like it's an environment and a space that is really important in taking care of ourselves. And I wanted trees and I wanted wildness. I wanted the ocean, and I knew I needed to move. And so I also wanted to write. I'd been writing since I was in grade 3, but nobody around me had ever shown me that it was possible to be an author as a career. No one, I was the first entrepreneur in my family. And it's really hard to take seriously your dreams and your gifts, especially when it's poetry, to pay for your life and to risk and to leap into those things when there's no one else around you showing you. And I feel like now on the internet there's a lot of people showing you, but 12 years ago I didn't have any of that. I had myself, and I had a dream that I decided that I was going to claim and take seriously. But really the first choice that I just made was, I am feeling this sadness inside and this feeling, and I know that it's time to make some changes. And so I'm just going to take a baby step. It wasn't really a baby step because I moved my whole life, but it felt like a baby step to start with the city. It was like, oh, it's easier. And with that came other changes. But I decided to move to this tiny cabin in British Columbia on the Sunshine Coast. And what I want to share is I'm grounded. Yes, I believe in like a bit of manifestation, a little bit of universe. I am also very grounded, and I have had things that I have wanted in my life. Like even now I live in California in Cardiff by the Sea because I surf, and I've had things that I want that haven't worked out. Like I had a business visa. My first visa was denied. I was like, yo, universe, like, hey, I want this. What are you doing? So I'm not going to say that this always happens, but it happened in this moment. So I called my mom at 3:45 and I said, I'm going to move to BC. I don't really know what I'm going to do for work. I want to start writing. So my romanticized thing was like, I'll be Bon Iver and write in a little cabin. And I'm going to go be the man I want to date, wear plaid and cut firewood. And like, I just romanticized entirely. It was really, there was bears, there was all kinds of things when I actually got out there, but I was like, I'm going to do that. And I'm glad I did it, but definitely had a romanticized idea of what living alone in the bush was going to be, which comes later. But I also, 6 months prior, I'd had a conversation with a woman. She was a filmmaker, so not a poet, but she was an artist, and she was a very successful artist. Her name's Diane Waylon. And I had asked her about how she had changed her life and how she had, she's Oscar qualified, Gemini nominated. She's a big fish out there in the film world. And sometimes we ask questions that save our lives. Like I really genuinely, and I don't, I want to be very clear. I wasn't ever suicidal, and it was a bit of a dramatic, but sometimes we get in these versions of our lives where we need to recreate. And I believe that if we stay in them, we will become like depressed and gray and all of those pieces. And 6 months before this moment, I had asked a question that I remembered in this moment, in the present tense, that had been really important. And I had said to her, like, how did you do it? How did you start? How did you, like, you're an award nominated filmmaker, best-selling author. I have no idea how to do this. How did you do it? And she looked at me. So apparently I did have somebody. Instagram wasn't there, but there was one person. And, she said to me, Yana, I was a photojournalist in Vancouver. We're in Canada, everybody, location wise. And I got tired of telling stories of trauma. I got tired of photographing airplane crashes, pain. I wanted to tell different stories. And so I heard about a sovereignty mission that happens in the northernmost point of Canada every year with the First Nations Rangers and the military go because technology freezes in the Arctic. So snowmobiles and all of those things actually are not enough. Western world is not enough to navigate the northernmost point of Canada. We need Indigenous and first, we need that their knowledge of the land to fully arrive. I also think it's a little ridiculous that we do a sovereignty mission every year, but that's a side thing. I'm like, really? Don't we have better things to be doing? But she loved this merging of worlds and wisdom and wanted to go with them. And so she just called them up. She called up the whoever the person was that was in charge of the expedition and said, my name's Diane Waylon, and I'm a photojournalist for the Vancouver Sun, and I want to come with you. And they were like, "Who are you? You can't come with us." And they hung up on her. And she called them back and said, "I want to do this. Like, I'll write a book. I'll do a feature story. Like, I will cover this." And she asked some of the right questions and said some of the right things. And she ended up on this expedition and she wrote a book about it called This Land and made a film interactive with the National Film Board of Canada. And it kickstarted her career as an adventure filmmaker. But she had to have the audacity to pivot, to change, and to claim a different dream. And so mine was a little bit less adventurous. Yes, there were bears with the cabin, but I was like, I'm going to go live in this cabin. And she had also said to me, Yana, you need to just change one thing. And so in that moment of I can't eat the shit sandwich anymore at 3:45 p.m. in the show suite office, the truth that I met inside of myself, and it was a smaller truth, but it was still a truth, was just I really need trees. I really need trees. I really need the ocean. And I really need something different. And I didn't even know where in BC it was going to be, but I knew I needed to move to BC. And I called my mom. And as I was sharing this with her, I said, I'm also going to start writing. And I don't know fully how to make a career as a writer, but I'm going to start doing it. And I might go to some universities and talk to some guidance counselors and see. I've never been to school, but I was like, oh, maybe I'll explore, have some conversations there at different colleges or universities. I ended up not going that route because I went and sat there and went, I'm not really convinced I need this to have a business as a writer. I'm not a heart surgeon. So I think I could tell a story. And I said to my mom on the phone, can you contact Dee and see if she knows anywhere I could bartend or serve? Because as I changed this one core foundational part of my life, I still needed to make money in different ways while I built out this maybe business as a writer. And so as I'm on the phone, this woman walks into the show suite, and integrity is one of my biggest values. And Iris, I'm so happy that I have a core value of integrity, because if I didn't, I wouldn't have had this moment. I made commission selling condos for a developer that was kind of like a sort of soft real estate gig. And I was actually waiting for $10,000 that I never got paid. And the other thing that I want to say is we often have something that we're waiting to happen to change our lives. And one of the reasons I stayed was I'm waiting for this $10,000. At that point in my life, when I was making $30,000, that was a lot of money for me. And it was my next step. And I was waiting for the shoe to drop to make these changes. And I would make like $1,000 a person I sold a condo with. I had a business partner, and this woman that walked in was not a new lead, so I wasn't going to make money off of her. And she actually wasn't my client. She was my business partner's client. She came in and I was on the phone, and I am really checked out of this life. And I'm so glad I had integrity, but I was done. I was really ready to move on from the job and everything. But she said, I'm here traveling from like out of province, and I have to fly out tomorrow. I know you're almost closed. Could you please show me my unit? It's under construction. I really need to see where they're at. And I put on a hard hat. And I was like, okay. And I got off the phone and I walked with her through this building. And as we were walking, one of my superpowers is I'm very open and people feel very safe a lot of the time to share their story. She started to talk to me about her story and her life and why she was there. And her father was sick. So she was buying a condo in Edmonton to be closer to him and to take care of him. And then she started to talk about this cabin. And she was like, I have this cabin and I don't know what to do with it. Like, I don't really want to sell it. I don't really want a stranger living there. I don't know what to do with it. And I'm like, where's your cabin? And she's like, the Sunshine Coast, which is where Dee and I had gone kayaking in one of the places I was considering. And I went, okay, no way. You're not going to believe this, but you walked in as I was having a conversation about wanting to move to BC to pursue my dreams. I want to be a writer. I started to share my dreams with her. And she was like, I love you. Like, I would love if you lived, or she didn't say I love you, but she was like, I love your energy. You know, I'd love for you to be the one that lives in the cabin. And then I shared that financially, I was like waiting for this money to drop because the developer had something caught up with someone. And again, it never arrived. So for those of you that are waiting for the shoe to drop, it might not drop. So you have to also just claim the shit that you want and call up the sovereignty mission and just say, I'm coming. That's the audacity is important in this. And I told her about the money and she said, you can actually live rent free till the money comes. So it doesn't always work out like that, but sometimes, and some of you who are listening, and maybe Iris, like, you know that there's those beautiful moments where it feels like the universe, once you say what it is that you want to create and build for your life, rolls out a goddamn red carpet for you and says, thanks for finally taking seriously the things that we know that you want. And yeah, we're going to help you out a little bit. And sometimes you don't get helped out and then you have to fight really hard and it's a combination. But in this moment, it was beautiful. I didn't end up living in her cabin. I ended up living in a different cabin. I could have. I didn't like the location of it, to be honest. And I found this cabin by a creek that had like a skylight and the moonlight would come in. And I ended up choosing that, even though I had to pay for it. And I babysat the kids that lived on the land in exchange for part of my rent. Because again, at that point in my life, I was very much in survival with money, which I've completely transformed, which is another amazing, blows my mind. I used to make $30,000 a year hating what I love, and I have made like $270 to $500,000 for 5 years off of my fucking gifts and my art. And every day I wake up and look at my calendar. I know I'm going forward a little bit, everybody, but this week I got a speaking opportunity of my dreams, of biggest one of my whole career. Brene Brown was a speaker at this conference a different year, and I just feel I'm having a lot of flashbacks right now of what my life was, and like the courage that it takes to actually claim those things that we want, but that it can never happen. And we wouldn't be on this call. None of the things that I've done today, none of the clients I've sat with or opportunities would even exist if I wouldn't have picked up that phone. And sometimes it's delirious, like you're a little like delulu, like you're like, I'm delirious that I'm going to do what? I'm going to go move I don't even know how to use an axe. I was freezing. There was bears tearing the siding off of this cabin. I was terrified. The whole thing would move at night when a bear or coyote would walk on. And there was a dude hiding in the woods one time. It was scary living out in the wild. Was very creative. I wrote 14 to 17 articles a month, and I ended up interning with Dee. Twice a week, I would work with her. I got paid like $10 an hour, but it was like, if you want to be in the energy of somebody who has the audacity to do it, you don't care about the money. You'll run around and get coffees for them just to be in their energy and to hear what they speak. And Dee is a really rare woman. So that was that moment though. I think we have our lives and we all have these little moments in our life that are impactful. And as a storyteller and a speaker and an author, I've told this story 100 times and it still makes me cry and feel emotional just because there was such a visceral opportunity to really claim what I wanted or to keep living my life in pain. And Louise Hay does say that depression is feeling trapped. And the way that we break depression is realizing the power of choice. So realizing how many exits are on the highway and that we're actually not locked into this one life that exists. And then she goes on to say that suicidal is we stop seeing all the exits and we just
Mm.
see things as black and white, live or die. And I think that it's so important to take accountability and realize the power of choice in our lives and listen to those truths. Sometimes they're small and then they get louder and louder and louder and louder because we don't listen to them. And that truth had been speaking to me for a long time. But when I started to genuinely feel depression roll in, it was like, okay, I want to go back to bed when I wake up because I don't feel excited about my day.
Mm.
That's not sleep as a vice. It's interesting. We don't often think about sleep as a vice. Sleep can be a vice because you don't have to be awake in the life that you're living. And so my whole journey, and to fast forward a little bit, yeah, I started to write, and then I had things that went viral and had millions of views. And then I published a book that sold 23,000 copies, which most 1% of books sell 5,000 copies. And I wrote poetry, which is not in that 1% stat. I'm probably much less. I have an O1 visa, which is a visa for artists with extraordinary ability that's really hard to get. I live a block from the beach and surf beautiful waves. I have a little 1975 blush pastel pickup truck, and I put my little mini Bernedoodle Zeus in it, and we go to the beach every morning and I surf and I get to write poems and work with clients around claiming their dreams and the things that they want, and speak at apparently events that Brene Brown has spoke at. So I'm feeling like a lot of really beautiful things happened in my life, and it took a lot of courage.
Mm.
And I just want to name it wasn't easy. And even part of that story I don't always share, but I think with where the world is at, I like to name is not only did I have to overcome this obstacle of like the money never came that I was waiting for, I also, as my car was packed and I'd moved out of my place and I'm on the way to this cabin, and I was in a very new relationship with somebody who was not a good relationship. And I realized I was pregnant, and I did a lot of processing around the fact that I could be a mother and do the things, but it wasn't the moment for me, and it wasn't the partner, and it wasn't the time. And so I had an abortion in this cabin in December, heavy rain, didn't know a single person outside from D on the coast. And my initiation into my new life was incredibly challenging, even though I was clear on
Mm.
my choice and I feel at peace with the fact I had an abortion. It was a whole thing to move through. And I really believe they call it the hero's journey or the heroine's journey. It's like in starting over or going on this call to adventure to our next life. And something really practical I like to say to people is like our cells change every 7 years.
Mm-hmm.
So why wouldn't parts of our life, why wouldn't your interest in things like your career or certain pieces happen? The good news is when you're in a relationship with somebody, that's actually part of the fun part, is that they're always becoming a new person that you're getting to know. And if you stay long enough, I'm also a huge fan of divorce, but if you stay long enough and in that commitment and it works for you, I think that I just want to be very clear that pro divorce, if you have that truth and that clarity for you. But there's also iterations of ourselves and our friendships and our family relationships of getting to know. So there will be change. Change is inevitable. And it doesn't always mean that it's easy or, I'm a self-sustained woman. I never came from, I was actually raised on welfare. I didn't have a bunch of money to support any of my dreams or things. Like there was no rich, I have a client who says like she wishes she has a rich uncle that she could call. I didn't have a rich uncle either. I told her, I was like, I didn't have a rich uncle either. And she's like, I know. And that's why I work with you, is you've built this amazing thing by yourself, and not by myself. I had mentors and people, and that's not right, but financially, yeah.
Mm.
And so I met with a mentor last week from 12 years ago, and she said, what I love is that you not only transformed your life through truth, you've also now, that's one of my gifts, is I've had over 1,000 people blows my mind, have gone through this 1-year program I have called Your Truth is Your Medicine, where people I walk them through with my stories. I teach through stories and then workbooks, because there's such power in journaling and sitting with ourselves and
Mm.
self-reflection that doesn't happen in just listening to me say things. There's a need for that, an integrative need. And I have this 1-year program with like all of these pieces. And so she was like, you've not only done it for yourself, but then you've become that space of transformation and for people to claim those things for themselves. I've also helped 120 women start a business, like scratch up from their gifts, and I've done 200 purpose sessions. So I feel like I transformed this life that needed a next iteration into not only a new life, but a business that has thrived and supported me and impacted a lot of people in this world. Whew. And that's the thing we don't always think about is when we're not claiming the things that we want, we're also shorting all of those people in the world who
Mm.
need our gifts, who want to fall in love or be our friend or, collaborate with us. Like they're just waiting for us to have the courage to show who we really are to the world. So,
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. I always say, like, it's a disservice to not claim what you're here for and to not listen
yeah.
to that inner voice or that sensation or that feeling that you mentioned at the beginning. When you don't listen to that, everyone else who gets to enjoy you while you cultivate your gifts also misses out. And I love that you claimed that for yourself. And I completely understand how this feeling of, oh, this change needs to happen. And then when you're working towards the change, you feel this excitement. But then when you're actually landing into the change, things can actually be really challenging. And I've experienced that too in multiple moments in my life. Like I've, like you, like packed up my stuff and moved countries because I felt I had to do that, or because I had a very beautiful experience when I went to Malta for the first time. It was total synchronicity. I read about it and then I cried when I read about it. I booked my ticket, booked my flight, booked my car. I was like, why am I here? And I arrived at my Airbnb, and the people who were living there, they said, okay, there's one thing you need to know. When you're here, a baby is going to be born. And I'm like, oh, I'm a doula. So if you need help, just let me know. And they just like dropped everything. And they're like, we've been looking for a doula for 9 months. I'm like, okay, that's why I'm here. I understand now. I get it.
Wow.
And then after that experience, there was this whole cascade of like, I need to move here. And then all these opportunities like magically popped up, but it was not magically, it was because I made the choice. And I can really relate to this journey, because it's the hero's journey basically that you are like unraveling, and I can relate to that. And it's such a gift if we, or when we are brave enough to listen, because every part of that journey comes with surrender, with lessons, with wisdom, with knowledge. And I'm just so grateful that you said yes, because now we all get to learn from you. You wouldn't be here.
No, there would not be my books out in the world. And what a beautiful, I've never been to Malta. What a beautiful, we need those stories of serendipity to believe in magic.
Yeah, me
We need
too.
them. They're so important. I love hearing those stories, but also then not to, I also like to simultaneously share the stories of where I've been flat out rejected by the universe, just to make people to be like, you still have to go out there and choose, because you can make it, spiritual people love to make things mean something. And I'm like, stop making
Mm,
it, you can make it mean something encouraging, but don't make it mean that you're not meant to have the things that you want. You still have to have the power of will
yeah, that's very true. Yeah,
to go out there. Thank you for sharing that story. I like that.
yeah. There was more to it, but time right now. So you mentioned that this entire journey of yours has led you to create this beautiful program where you teach people how their truth can be their medicine.
Mhm.
And I'm curious, what does that mean in the season of your life that you're in right now? What does that mean for you? Because I can imagine this also morphs and changes as you change.
Yes, and for anyone who's a business owner and has a program that they relaunch every year, I feel like I revisit the core medicine or the message of each offer every
Mm,
time I amp up. It's almost as if my life becomes an amplification of what I'm about to step into and teach. And so I've been actually building out this launch as a whole. it's a marriage. It's definitely not a one night stand for this program that we do. And takes 6 months with my team. So we've been in it now with the truth, talking to the truth for 6 months. I think the biggest thing, having conversations like this conversation with you and conversations I've had this week, really brings me into my heart and gives me a meaningful space to reflect, because the program Your Truth is Your Medicine is about my story in changing my life from a moment that I was in pain and just feeling really sad. And now knowing where I am, I still have moments where I have to make changes and choices. And it's not, I even tell people it's about learning to listen to this compass inside of who we are, or our North Star, or this feeling. And I feel like the truth is I don't know if it's going to say it's intuition. Sometimes people want to say it's intuition, but it's like it's this piece inside that we hear, and then we need to continue to fire a synaptic response, neuroscience, get that moving, to learn how to hear, integrate, and then take action. And that's something we got to do for our whole lives. It's not like, oh, I did it once, Iris. I did it once and now I'm good. It's all good. No, I get micro and macro truths in my life all the time that I have to listen to. And sometimes I'm like I'm a manifestor in human design, and that's on my forefront because I just was interviewed by Erin Claire Jones, who's a human design expert this week. And we were talking about how with my design, which is to be an initiator, I'm very bold and evocative, and I don't ask for permission, and I repel people or they fall in love with my big energy. I'm not I'm a supernova. I had a therapist once who said, Nick, you're a supernova in a world full of planets, and you have a big energy, and you're going to feel alone and lonely sometimes because you're not always going to be met. So feeling disappointed, feeling some of those pieces. But I get truths like integrity is a core value for me. And I oftentimes, like I was just saying on the note of where's truth showing up in my life, I had a business somebody in my business, like a contractor relationship, fall apart this week. And that's always hard, even when you know the truth of a relationship not being a fit. For me, I use the world of values. So I always try and look at maybe what values are not shared. And it still hurts and it's hard. But as I step deeper into working with people around honoring those truths, I force myself to also really step into them. It's like I'm going to be teaching about vices and numbing, and like I have moments where I can reach for breath work and a cold plunge or a glass of Sauvignon Blanc, and I can tell you that closer to, like, I feel like no one drinks anymore. I drink sometimes, but I feel like the whole world is like personal development, self-help world. I mean, Europeans are a little more chill, but in America, all the self-help coaches have stopped drinking, and I like wine sometimes, but I notice, especially holding so much and in a busy phase, wanting to downshift my nervous system. But I'm like, I'm about to go talk with people about their relationship with wine. And so I start to get very aware of my relationship with those things and where I'm regulating in a way that is healthier and cleaner. And it's fine to have wine sometimes, or TV or whatever. I think it's, do you know Abraham Hicks's work?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I love her. And I listened to a seminar she did once, and this woman came on to do a hot seat with her. And the woman said, my husband just died and I'm drinking a lot of wine. And Abraham was like, okay, so drink wine, but like, don't drink wine forever, and be aware that you're drinking wine. And I love that practical piece. And so one of the ways I've been noticing is in my stress, how am I regulating? And also, am I really owning and speaking my truth, and also integrating it in some moments and some of the things that I work with people on, because sometimes we take sloppy, messy, reactive action. I have a whole module of my program of like, hey, there's something called integration. And I know it's really fun when you go to a personal development seminar to like blow up your life, but like just let it integrate for like a week maybe. And then, I have a client, who shared all these changes, but you have to space them out in your life. You don't want to like quit the job, move, and leave your partner all in the same week. You can. I mean, it's kind of manic and fun, but then it's really hard on your nervous system. So, Yeah. And then I almost also, something that happens for me is I really fall in love with what I'm about to teach in a
Mm.
new way, in a way that I haven't. And so when you've created something, sometimes I'm sure you've done this, you make something and you're like, nah, I don't know if I'm really that interested in that anymore.
Yes.
Like, okay, I've taught it, like, meh, I've done it, like, I'm moved on. But then I get into it and I'm like, yeah, like I remember the reasons and the beauty. And I have affiliates working with me for this launch, and they're sending me voice notes being like, I just did the hypnotherapy soul retrieval session. And because I have all these mentors and teachers that come in and speak, and like they're saying, like, I left my body, I had this life changing. And I'm like, right. Yeah, this program's amazing. And I'm so glad we're doing it again. And so it's like when you have a musician that has a hit song and they sing it a million times, you're like, do they really want to keep singing it? But they have to find a way to fall in love with that song in different ways and to connect to it. So, yeah, I'm in this phase of falling in love again with something I made 5 years ago. And I'm deep in the, because then I'm also writing the emails and the ad copy, and that brings me into my story and connects me
Mm-hmm.
back to it. So, yeah, I'm in a beautiful space right now of just paying attention to the elements of that, because listening to the truth of who we are and meeting ourselves in truth is not something we do once. And that's, I really need people to hear that, because it's not, I'm not perfect. I'm not fixed. My life isn't transformed. I have moments where I'm out of alignment, and then I have to listen to that truth. And so does everybody else. But it is about learning to listen in here. So,
Yeah. It's almost like when you were saying all of that, what came to me was like truth is actually a verb. It's something that keeps evolving and shifting and changing. It's like alive in its on its own, and we just have to move with it and see what it means and see how it feels and how it moves with us. Yeah.
it's true. And like, for those of you that feel disconnected from your truth, I wanted to say that there's like micro moments. Like, it could be true that you wake up in the morning and you usually drink black coffee, and what could be true is like you want a latte, or that like
Mm.
you're excited to eat blueberries for breakfast. Like, I also want to say that truths are not always these large big things. They're
Mm.
also micro little things that we get to feel into. And so if you're listening to this going like, what are my truths, and I don't know how much, a lot of us don't pay rent or live in our bodies. So when I'm talking about feelings in your bodies, you might even go, I don't even really have that. That's okay. You have
Mm.
to, there's a journey into the body, and it takes time, but just start to pay attention to the things that you're pulled towards or that
Mm.
you desire. And those also get to be the confidence building little truths, like um, validating and feeling into. It doesn't always have to be a massive truth as well.
Mm. Did you notice that when you made that one first big decision, this shift, this change, that it was easier for you to also notice the other like smaller day-to-day truths that came to you, like, oh, this is what I want to have for breakfast, or now I want to like move my body, or was that something that was awakened within you?
Yeah, and I would say definitely like I I was the micro, the little tiny pieces. I felt like I had the feeling for a long time and didn't listen to it. So for
Mm-hmm.
me, it was more like I was like, oh no, I know the big ass changes that need. It's not about blueberries for breakfast over here. It's like we need to start writing. We need to do these things. So I was aware. I often feel that we actually, not always, but like we know to a degree. It's not, maybe not always on the career front. The career front can be a bit hazy, but I knew enough. And the thing about moving your city is then you automatically, your friends are somewhere else, your community is somewhere else, and your jobs, unless
Yeah.
you work remote, are also somewhere else. And for me, they were physical in-person jobs at the time. So that choice forced new friendships, new community, new location, new jobs. It also gave me an opportunity to start working online and have an online business.
Mm.
But yes, it amplified and created a space for me to look at all of those things very clearly. And I think that sometimes if you just quit your job and you stay in the same city, it might be a little bit quieter, right? There's like a little bit of a different piece. But yeah, it definitely, it also, one of the things I don't talk about in the program, but that definitely happened around the same time, is I went off birth control, and I actually met this woman. Sunshine Coast is full of like hippies, dodgers, artists. It's like a really weird like combo. And there's this hippie, this woman I met. She was I am a hippie. I was raised by hippies. I love hippies. But she was like, when I went off birth control, when I noticed now is like when I pee in the woods, I can feel the energy of the earth again. And anyways, I remember this moment and her telling this to me. I started to go off birth control. I started to connect also with serious hormone imbalance in my body because of birth control. And like, you know, your body tricks you into thinking you're pregnant and that your choice in men changes, all kinds of things change. By the way, if you're on birth control, go do some research around that, because it literally is hard to tell if you like the person you're with, because all of your go look more into it. Maybe you're the person to talk. I don't know. Do you talk about your work?
Yeah, I do. I speak about that. Yes.
But I'm mentioning this because I had a journey also with my body and my hormones, and then I also used to straighten my hair and wear makeup, and I had this unwinding into also like authentically. My program's also about authenticity and just being who you are. It was like, what's my hair? You know, what do I look like? And I would be naked everywhere. I would go pee in the bush and then I'd feel the earth through I had a moment where a bear came and I was like banging pots and pans to scare it off. And I was like naked. And I forgot that I was naked. And it also didn't run away, which was so scary. But it was scary. There was cougars and like, I would like kind of cut out for the bush, but not really. I definitely, not to be stereotypical, but definitely will be with a partner if I'm deep in the bush again. Not alone. I did it, but it was a little scary. I will tell you that I was both a badass and a little afraid. And so on the note of that particular piece and those changes and choices, I would say that, yeah, it forced me to look at the other parts of my life. And I think once you also start to feel how good it feels to start to respect and really honor and make choices that honor the truth that you're feeling inside, yeah, then you start to see everywhere else. You're like, oh, that felt good. And what else needs to change? It's like when you clean out one messy drawer in your house and you're like, oh, that feels good. Where else should I be cleaning up? Because that freed up some space in my life. And yeah, so yes, it did also show me the other places. And it took a bit of time. I still had to serve and bartend for a while. I didn't just automatically make at the beginning, I think I was making $4,000 as a writer, which is incredible. But it took a moment where I had to have other jobs and things that were there to support me as well.
I think that's also very smart to do. Like,
yeah,
I have not always been so smart about it. Like, I moved to Malta with like 300 euros to my name. And I was like, okay, now what? Then I decided to like completely start my own business from scratch from where I left it off in the Netherlands. Like, wouldn't recommend. Like, that was a very smart thing to do. And I love that you mentioned the birth control part, because what I often tell people is that birth control numbs like a part of yourself that is true. Like, your hormones inform what you want and what you feel and how you perceive the world around you. And that's kind of like blurry on birth control. So I can definitely see how this shift also informed basically your development, like of your brain and your hormones communicating, like your brain communicating with your ovaries, and what that does to your creativity and your perception of the world, your perception of yourself, and the perception of your truth and who you want to be as a person and what your purpose is, how you want to bring that forth in the world. Like, your hormones play an important part of that. People don't know this, but they play such an important part of that. And with that, I'm also curious, because what I thought about when you were sharing is, whoa, she also stopped her birth control in a moment when it was not cool to do that. Just like I did. So I wanted to ask you, like, how did you and did you stay connected to your truth in a world that often rewards like performance and walking the line? Like, how was it? Because you mentioned that it would be lonely for you. So it's not easy.
Well, also I
Yeah.
was like literally in the middle of the woods, in the middle of nowhere. Like I was alone. So let's be
Okay.
very clear. Like I isolated myself like intensely. We are communal creatures. It's okay for a little while, but then you still need to leave the aloneness to have community. And
Yeah.
I did move. I moved to Santa Teresa in Costa Rica for a little while, and then I moved to California because I felt like alone. I was like, I'm lonely, but it was like, yeah, it's because I live alone. There is a community, but you really had to travel and seek them and find them. And it took some time. But first, I just want really, really quickly, like, Iris, I just appreciate, thank you for working with women around all of the things that you do and hormones and what you just said about it informing, right? That was such a beautiful, I'm just like so grateful that you do that work and that feels true. Um, and yeah, I think there's actually a talk in the program this year. We're doing a breaking up with birth control talk by a naturopathic doctor,
Oh, cool.
because I think that yeah, that's a new addition. Was like the importance of breaking up with birth control and in part of accessing your truth. So I feel like you could also be teaching that. You're teaching a different one, but you could be teaching that one. But yeah, I know that, and I'm going to share in a minute with everybody. We'll share, there is a program, but there's also a free thing that I want to invite you to. And Iris is a part of the later thing.
Yes.
And she will be coming in to share her genius. I just wanted to say, I just felt your genius and when you said that, I was like, oh, I love like moments where I get to feel people's genius zone and their things. So
Mm.
thanks for the way in which you said that and the way that it was named just felt so clear in a way that we only can express if we've spent a lot of time in something
Mm.
and have an understanding of it. So yeah, I worked with Gay Hendricks for a year. So I called our genius. Thanks for that little genius moment.
I appreciate you
And
for noticing it. Thank you.
yeah, it was poetic. How could I not notice? And so your question was around dealing with the loneliness or the aloneness of embracing truth, like in that particular moment in the cabin.
Yeah, and also how do you stay connected to that truth in a world that expects something different from us?
Mhm. Well, when I'm not listening to that truth, I feel a little like disassociated and weird.
Mm.
First off, it's like I don't feel well in myself when I'm not listening to that. So I come back to this because it's what connects me and makes me
Hmm.
feel grounded. And so yeah, a lot of the world tells you all kinds of things, but I think we need to listen in first here,
Yeah.
always, and then run the world through us as a sounding board. And in that particular moment of change and embracing the truth that I was starting over and like being alone in the cabin. I also just want to make sure I fully understood the question because I feel like I might go on a tangent right now. Can you ask it one more time?
So, my question was how you stay connected to this truth that you have cultivated in a world that often expects like performance or outward projection instead of listening to this inward part. I feel that you have like
Right.
being
Yes.
a manifester, you have that cultivated, like you came with that.
To it somewhat, but there's a lot of manifestors who don't. Well, what I would say is the other thing that I tell people, like it's interesting being a coach because people work with me as a coach, but I think that what you're saying about like we're taught to externally, we outsource our power a lot. That's what I'm
Yes.
trying to say. We outsource our power and we're like, I need the coach or the guru or I need the thing to tell me. And when I work with people, I'm going to say all kinds of things. And some of it might be really helpful. And there might be some business strategy you love, and there might be some personal pieces that you love, but you need to learn to listen in here and run every fucking thing I say through the sounding board that is you.
Mm,
Because
yeah.
I don't pick up all of the advice that my mentors and coaches give me. And that's not the point of having a coach and a mentor. It's not like, yes, I'll do everything that you do. It's no, I like the horizon of this person. If it's a business mentor, I like the business that this person has built and what exists there. If it's something that we're wanting, if it's a secure attachment or like a piece, it's like you have to like what you're learning from that person, but we're never going to resonate 100%. And I think a lot of people, especially in self-help and people who are interested in self-growth, don't outsource your power,
Mm-hmm.
and do listen to the truth inside, and don't be afraid to walk away from something. Like, we have to have this. I have coaches and mentors and therapists, and I have therapists. I go see Larry. I don't know what I do without Larry Laveman in Solana Beach. Thank you. Like, everybody say thank you to Larry for me for a moment, because he's my rock. And I value, I'm still saying yes, growth, therapy, but at the same time, also being able to listen in to this piece is
Mm.
important, and not source from inside of here. And I I don't feel like I feel like it's scary to outsource. I don't know. Some people,
Mm.
I guess my piece is I've never wanted, I don't, it doesn't feel connected or in my body to do that. So, yeah. And then, I mean, as a woman, another thing is, like, I'm constantly hit with, like, look 20, I'm 35 and I've got gray
Mm.
hairs. And there's also there's a thing that I think that we deal with as well, with our power as women, and aging, and men, with youth and beauty and the beauty industry of, like, I think we just have to always connect back to, I've had a huge journey also, as I just shared, like, letting go of being perfect, letting go of the standards that were sold
Mm-hmm.
by the $44 billion beauty industry and all of these pieces. And so when you talk about power and outsourcing, I just try and keep it all in here, and not listen, because we get bombarded with, like, that we're broken and that we need all of these things to
Mm.
fix us, or be lovable, or be beautiful, or, like, whether it's the beauty industry or the self-help industry, everyone's telling you what you need to be fixed and not broken. And I want to just remind everybody, you're not broken, and you don't actually need anything. It's okay to seek support and be able to
Mm.
have mentors in moments of your life, but don't do it from a place of, I'm fucked if I don't do this. Do it from a place
Yeah.
of, like, I like I like the horizon, and I'm going to learn something from that person, but I also know that I have a whole power and peace inside of me. And so, yeah. Did I answer that? I feel like we answered it.
Yeah. I love the clarity and precision with which you can name it. And it's
Hmm.
because you embody it and it's because you live it. And I can feel that. And I think people who are listening can also feel that. But I also know that there are people who are listening who are like, I want this. What is she talking about? I understand conceptually it exists, but I haven't cultivated it and I haven't fully embodied it. And I think that that is what you are doing exactly with your work. It's you're supporting people or inviting people into this space where they can actually cultivate this for themselves through you as a sounding board and a mirror. So could you maybe tell a little bit more about your very beautiful free offering that is coming very soon?
Yeah. Yes. So, yeah, my full, like, I'm a transparent woman. So there is a full year program that I do, and Iris is going to be involved as a teacher of
Yes.
truth in it, which I'm very excited for. I've got, like, 24 other teachers of truth and people who also live their truth in the world that are involved. But there is a program called Your Truth is Your Medicine. And every year before I launch it, I do this incredible 10-day experience where I test some of the curriculum and the actual course materials and give it away for free in this 10-day experience. And I look for, the term is a beta tester, and beta, it's very scientific. It just means to test. And so essentially we're giving people the opportunity, both me and my team want the feedback of, hey, is this helpful? How is this? And then you get the experience of having this, like, very front row exclusive seat while I film this mini course. And it is a mini course that I film live that then I later charge for. So it's called, the term is called a beta tester. And what you really are is having a front row seat, which is in live time. And then you get the opportunity later on in the program to just share how it landed for you, if it was helpful, if it was not helpful, and give the feedback that is really important. But for me, what I love about it is it's this 10-day totally free experience. It's about 12 hours of teaching. So I do 3 full curriculum workshops that are 2 hours each, where I also start with the very first things in my journey and how I was running away from myself, because I think that that's the prerequisite first steps to making choices and change is like, hey, what are my vices? How
Mm.
am I numbing? What are the masks that I'm wearing? Where am I stopping my voice? Why am I afraid of being who I am in my relationships? Where am I out of integrity with the truth of who I am? And how is avoiding that affecting how I
Mm.
feel, my confidence, my trust, all of those pieces? So we dive in. I've got curriculum, I got slides, I got all kinds of things. We do three, like pretty much three little almost mini course days, and then I do hot seat coaching live in a community. There's a Facebook group, and the beautiful thing is, something that I think is important to name is, there is transformation that happens one-on-one when you're in a room, and some things you need one-on-one for, but there is a type of healing and transformation that only happens when both being witnessed and witnessing, because you
Yeah.
alone in a room could move through something, but then still have a story and shame that it's just you, that's, you could still have shame around it. if
Mm-hmm.
if I have a woman who comes in and I'm doing a hot seat with her in Meet Yourself in Truth, and she starts to share about something that you have shame about, and I'm coaching her through it, I'm not looking at you. And so what we know about psychology is that all of our defense patterns come up when we're being looked at as well, and you're disarmed because I'm not even looking at you, but you're getting a witness to this moment that's your moment, because so much of this human experience, surprise, sorry, you're not so unique in your you-ness, even though you think that you are. That's why you should have shame, but you shouldn't. Is like her being like, and everything. It's crazy. I have people who come in, and I had a woman once share about like, yeah, like using masturbation a lot to avoid pain. Usually I feel like that's a male stereotypical thing. And it was this woman, and she shared about it openly, and we did a hot seat on it around, because sex is also one of the ways we can avoid
Mm-hmm.
or numb, or masturbation. And so, right, you're in this moment where you're like, oh my gosh, this is maybe what I need to hear. But you don't have to be looked at. I don't even, you're just on the call. Your video's off, you're in the bathtub eating a snack. That type of healing only happens in community. And so I participate and I went to Peter Levine's retreat in Sedona. I go
Mm.
be a participant in the world, because I think that it is so important to be vulnerable in groups as a part of our integration and healing. So whether you do personal development, you have a coach, a person, I would love to have you apply. There's an actual application. Yes, it has questions. You have to share a little bit. I need you to come live and be there and really commit to also giving me the feedback if I choose you to have a spot here. But yeah, it's really fun. It's really generous. It takes a whole team of people and a lot to build this out, but I love being in community each year, and I love getting feedback, and yeah, and then it's like a free 10-day personal development thing. So it feels amazing to give to people the opportunity of being involved in, and it allows me to like touch and access my work in a way that I only get to do once a year. So very excited. It's June 2nd to 12th. It's called Meet Yourself in Truth. I haven't even shared about it in the world. So if you're listening to this podcast, you're getting one of like the first opportunities. And also bring a friend. It's fun to do this with an accountability buddy. So you can share the link with 15 people in your life if you want. And maybe who would need it the most just listening to this. Please do send it to them. And it can be really good. And also, if you want to come, if you're a mom, ask for the support that you need, or if you have kids, like get childcare, be there to really receive. So often we sign up for things to support us, and then we don't actually sit down. So go get the childcare, or ask for support, or block the time in your calendar to really be there if you're going to come, because I'm going to want to be with you. So also, I just want to note that, just to encourage you to not just come, but like, what would it, commitment only works when you do it. So could you actually commit to this if you come and you're approved to like follow through? And yeah, so if anybody in Iris, your community, is listening to this and goes like, I like this woman's energy and I'm curious to learn more, I felt something inside when she was talking, maybe you're triggered by me because I'm really bold, but like I feel something and I want to learn more, I would love to have you come Meet Yourself in Truth. we uptune our cars, our closets, but like, when was the last time you sat with yourself? So,
Yeah.
come sit with me. I'm also really fun. I'm not just serious. We're not just going to talk slow, and it's not going to be this big spiritual thing. I'm going to make you laugh and probably cry and feel afraid and all of the spectrum of emotions. So, and Iris, I would love for you to come as well too. I think we've talked about that.
Yes, yes, I'm going to be there for sure. So I'm going to be there. I'm going to invite some of my friends. So I'm definitely going to be there. And I love that you commit so much time and love and energy to creating this, because I feel, and you know this, you're a business owner. In the business world, there are so many people who just do free things to get numbers and do free things to get people on their email list. And honestly, I'm so sick of that. Like, it's so uninspiring. And it's just so beautiful to see someone commit 10 days of their lives to be with their people, because it doesn't happen like that. I mean, people do like one free webinar or a 3-day challenge, but I love that you actually take so much time and effort and energy to actually be with us, and then also ask us to be committed. Because how many times have we dropped our email because we loved like a fancy title of a webinar and then we never opened it up? Like, it happens all the time. And it's like, with these kinds of things, like, I feel so much in my heart. These things are a reciprocal, you're stepping into a reciprocal relationship. And because it's online, it often doesn't feel that way. But that's why I love to work with you, because you're different in that. And I love that you create this open space, you give from your heart, you invite people in. And yeah, that's why I trust you. That's why I work with you. That's why I come to talk into your program, because you're just a real woman and you're doing it like so much from the heart. And I really want to say that. And I appreciate you so much for inviting me into your world and support you with this work, because it doesn't happen everywhere. Like, we all know that we are entrepreneurs. We see other spaces as well. And I think it's important for us to, as entrepreneurs, to keep connecting and to support each other in this way and bring our people in each other's worlds, because we're all here for the same thing. We all want to have community. We all want to be loved. We all want to be seen. We all want to grow. And I love that you so generously create these spaces. And I just want to express my gratitude for that, because I love you for that.
Oh, thanks. I appreciate it. Well, generosity is one of my core values. I real quick, I know we're so over at time. I know you're like, usually do 45 minutes
That's
for
okay.
an hour. But
okay.
I had a moment when I was very little. I was raised on welfare and we didn't have a lot. And there was this moment, I think this is where my value of generosity came from, which always, I've kind of like almost cried 4 times on this conversation. Is that we had gone to like a Salvation Army, got some secondhand things, me and my mom. And we had bought this, I think it was a sleeping bag or a blanket. And I remember being really excited about it. And we were walking home in Vancouver. It was winter and there was a homeless person sleeping by this school. And my mom stopped, and without saying anything to me, she took the blanket and she put it by this person sleeping.
Mm.
And I remember having this feeling as a kid of like a little bit of sadness because I wanted the thing. And then her just being like, they need it more than us. And I have the most generous mom, like really to be raised with so little and to have that has really shaped me in a huge way. And it's one of my biggest values. And I try and live it in my business. The other thing is that I think it's a trust economy right now. You also have to like spend time with people. And
Yeah.
I think that it's important to sit in community and really give people the opportunity to know who we are over. And if you're a business owner listening to this, like give people time to get to know who you are, because we need to be able to spend time understanding and having community and space that's more than an hour is really important for that. So yes, it's a huge lift. It also financially is like $50,000, like a whole, it's everything. Both like I have a team of 20 different, I have 10 community moderators that are called Truth Team. they like support in the group so that everybody feels seen and held. And then I have a team of about 7 people that I pay for. It takes a whole thing to do, but it's such a giving to me and to everybody. And I'm exhausted after, but I love it. I'm going to lay on a beach in Maui for a week, like flatline, drinking really good coffee. I've already got it booked. So thank you for those words. It is a giving, it's a generosity. And I think that that's how we should do everything. I think generosity is a really great thing. So also, if you want to come learn about business with generosity and you're listening to this, come hang out, because it's probably one of the coolest things you'll see. We also do it like a VIP giveaway. Somebody flies into Encinitas and hangs out with me. I'll give that away too. So there's a big gift thing that we do and all kinds of things. So come hang, come apply. Iris, thank you. I'm so excited to have you be a part of the bigger program that happens later. Also, if you're a part of this beta experience and you do like it, you get a discount code and all the things. And I name in the very beginning of the experience, it's not a webinar. I'm going to be like, hey, there is at some point going to be an invitation to later come if you want to come. But there is like an opportunity to have a discount code that you don't get also if you're because you're there and you're testing the actual curriculum with me, which is really helpful and like important. So,
I'll be sharing the invitation in the show notes for the free 10-day event so that people can easily join. Should people want to like look at your socials or your website, what are the best places that they can find you?
Yeah, of course. So my name is like Jane with 2 N's. Janne is Greek, so it's Janne, Jane with 2 N's, but it's much more exotic. It's much prettier. And then Robinson, and my Instagram's a hoot. So much happens there. You won't know what to think. And then because I write poetry, I'll do all kinds. You're gonna be like, no, you never know what's coming down. I don't really have a brand. It's Janne Robinson. It's just a surprise. And then I have JanneRobinson.com, JANNE Robinson.com, and yeah, those are and I have my book. This is for the women who don't give a fuck. It's my first book. That's a good place to start if you're into poetry. There's Cobwebs on Her Vagina is my second book. Those are both on Amazon.
I remember that book coming out and it was the best title. I shared it with so many women. I'm like, we need to read this.
It's really fun. Yeah. I also work in corporate. I always tell people, I'm like, you can do anything you want. Like, I love to be a expander, but so those are all places, but yeah, just come hang out with us. It's live and, you can buy my book later. I'd love for you to just come be in the energy. And, there is also some catch-up days that you can watch recordings on. So that's good too. But yeah, Iris, thank you for the generosity of your time and also your trust, because to bring anyone onto your podcast or into your audience means that to a degree that you trust them and feel resonance with them. So to everyone listening, your attention and your presence nowadays, there's a lot competing for it. So thank you for taking the time. And then, Iris, thank you for taking the time to hear my story and share this and also come into the program later. I'm really excited to have you be a part of it.
I'm excited too. And I will definitely see you at the 10-day event. I'm going to be there, going to bring my friends so we can share time there. Thank you so much for coming on.
Bye for now.
Okay, this wraps up today's episode. Thank you so much for listening. Want to know more about me? The best way to reach me is via @CycleSeeds on Instagram. And if you heard something today and you think, oh my God, wow, I learned something new, feel free to share the podcast on your social media and tag me, or leave a review or rating. In this way, you help me reach more people like you. Thank you so much.